One of the ugliest games I've ever watched at NRG, and I've watched a lot of ugly games. I mean, I've been every play of the last couple of years we've watched. We went through the Osweiler. Obviously, before that was it was definitely the ugliest half of football that I've witnessed, and it might have been the toughest game that I've ever had to sit through at the stadium. And I don't know if this is rock bottom, because I don't think it's not like that much of a shock, because they're in a rebuild, they got the 75 million dead cap, by now, Davis Mills is not the answer. So I don't want to call it rock bottom, but it's definitely alarming. And just the whole scene before the game, you could have a street hockey tournament in the parking lots at this point. Like you could honestly probably have like 30 street hockey games going on in the middle of that parking lot. It's dead. The atmosphere is dead. We'll hear Lovey Smith argue with Brian T. Smith about that. The entire vibe. This team needs some juice. They need a spark. They need a face of the franchise, and they just need a little bit of a kick. And they just don't have it. They just don't have it. And it does start. I know Lovie Smith wants to minimize, the quarterback, and we can't all. It's not just one guy. It's a team effort, and up front, the quarterback's a big problem. Davis Mills now leads the league in interceptions. The defense is a problem. The front seven is a problem. There's a lot of problems. There's plenty of blame to go around, and on top of that, I don't think they're a very well-coached team at all. I don't think they're well-coached. I don't think they're talented, and the life is getting sucked out of the fan base right now. There's still diehards that are at the stadium. Shout out to everyone that I saw out there that came by and said, hey, but it's getting really, really hard to watch, to the point where I think a lot of fans are just focused on the draft next year, if not taking a vacation from what's going on. And Lovie Smith is not a very good rebuild coach when it comes to like being a face of the adversity and stuff. He's really not. Like he goes up. I mean, the way in which he goes up there and conducts himself when things are bad, it's not a good vibe. He doesn't make you feel any better. And quite honestly, he's turned himself into Lovie Smith in a very short time. And we were warned about this. Lopez actually said this was going to happen. He predicted it. Lovie Smith has become a very unlikable coach. A very unlikable coach for many, many reasons. But he's become very, very unlikable. And he's a likable guy, but amidst where Lovie is, he's just not a likable guy at this point. Like as a coach, he's not likable. And I don't even think he's a good coach. I had people come up to me in the parking lot, and multiple people have said this to me. And you can put the comments in, we'll read them. But multiple people have come up to me and been like, well, they're trying to lose. Lovie Smith isn't trying to win. 10 years out of his 15-year career as a head coach, Lovie Smith has lost more games than he's won. He's had 5 winning seasons. So Lovie Smith, there's not like some sort of master plan that Lovie Smith is sitting there and trying to lose games. They're just not good, and he's not a coach that is going to coach guys up. He's damn sure not a good defensive coordinator. What would we base that on? 3 years Ron Rivera carried him. He brings in his guy, and they're not even in the top half of defense. And then he has to hire Rod Marinelli to bail him out. I mean, what are we basing it on? Matthew in the comments says the way Lovey's handling this season is an absolute embarrassment. Look, I don't really necessarily disagree with you. I mean, like I said, I think he's looked like a total goofball up there, talking during a rebuild, going up there and getting sassy because people are asking about the quarterback. The hell do you want me to ask you about, sir? He doesn't want to talk about the past. He doesn't want to talk about the quarterback. He doesn't want to talk about the negatives. What the hell do you think? What do you want to talk about, Coach? I'm tired of Lovie Smith defending Davis Mills. It's pathetic at this point. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Unfortunately, Cal has no clue that the fans are disgruntled. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think he's very aware of what's going on. Leave Mills in and we'll secure the #1 pick next year. Yeah, if he keeps playing like this, that's for damn sure. Texans need so much work, it's unreal. I think so, but I do think, once there's not as much dead cap next year and they bring someone in, then I'll figure that out. Give me an a-hole coach, F a good guy coach. We need a coach to say, hey, you suck, hit the bench. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind a jerk coach. It's just coming across as pretty petty with Lovey. You really believe drafting Bryce Young is going to turn this around? I'm not in on drafting Stroud anymore either. Draft best player available. Then just trade in that case and figure that out. We got people calling for Jeff Driscoll. That's where the F we're at right now. Someone says David Culley over Lovey. Whether I disagree or not. I'm going to bring Mike Meltzer in. And I'm intrigued to see this. Mike, do you want to hear or see Lovie Smith's post-game press conference? Because this was probably the most combative that Lovie Smith has been during his time here. We can get to that, but what is your biggest takeaway?
Yeah.
Takeaway is I'm glad they're losing. I want the #1 pick. But at this point, I do think not only is quarterback in need, I'm starting to think they might need to seriously at least evaluate this coaching staff.
Oh, yeah, but I think you've been on that the whole time. My biggest takeaway from today is the Davis Mills era is over. There's no realistic way, barring some incredible surprise in the next 7 games, that you can possibly bring him back as the starting quarterback next season. So
no way.
I know, Landry, there's a lot of debate on the Texans Twitter streets about Caleb Williams and Drake May look much better than Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. But Davis Mills is playing so poorly at this point that he is giving them no choice but to change quarterbacks for next season. Whether that's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, they can't possibly bring him back with the way that he's playing. That's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Do you bench him now? I mean, I'm almost worried that Kyle Allen's going to give him some sort of spark or something. I mean, do you think GMs think like this to where, because Nick Caserio is a smart guy. Nick Caserio doesn't wake up and live in the moment. He has some sort of plan. I think there's a reason they're taking the $75 million in dead cap on the chin this year. He wants to get as much as possible. Do you look at yourself and say, if you're the Texans, okay, we need to keep Davis Mills in there because he's so bad that he solidifies losses, or does it even matter at this point?
But you haven't thought, Landry, this whole time that they're trying to lose. No, I don't think they're trying to lose.
Dude, that is that's giving them too much credit. I agree. I think they were willing to make sacrifices this year that they wouldn't make if they felt like they were close. I don't think they're going to situate the cap the way they did this year. I don't think they're going to do that. But I don't think that there's some sort of calculated way to lose. But I do wonder, if at this point, with as many games as you have in the season, does that come into play? Do you want to win a couple of games? What are you gaining out of that?
Before I came on, I was actually listening to 610, and I thought Sean Pendergast made a good point when they actually played the whole Lovey press conference, including the back and forth with Brian T. Smith. And Sean made the good observation that At this point, Davis Mills is not being held accountable. Like, if you look at the literal words that Lovey is saying in that press conference, he's blaming everybody else. The offensive line, the inability to run the football. Like, there's no level of accountability that's happening with Davis Mills. To me, if you had Kyle Allen, like, I don't think this team realistically is beating. You look at these next couple of games. They're not beating Miami. They're not beating Dallas on the road. They're not beating Kansas City at home or Tennessee on the road. Now, I think the Cleveland game is a weird one because just the emotion involved. And I think they'll have some chances.
Hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah, so the Browns game, I think, is a really tough one to evaluate, given that their season is basically over. You know, home Jacksonville at Indy to end would give you some chances. But I just think that, like, there might be, there always is like a big picture. Like, the Jets are sticking with Zach Wilson, even though I think they should have, in this game today against the Pats, should have benched him. But you can still bench a guy and go back to him. Like, to me, the week-to-week starter is an organizational decision. The benching somebody in the game is a just in-game coaching decision when somebody's not playing well enough. Sometimes he just needs a seat from the bench. Sometimes a guy who's playing this poorly without any confidence just needs a break. So if I'm playing Kyle Allen,
a break,
given where this team is
what
at.
Do you mean a break?
A break. Might need a break. He might need a break.
Speaking of benching, man, I'm surprised Kenyon Green didn't get benched today.
I was a little surprised by that too.
I want you're good at this type of shit.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a rougher half of football by a Houston Texan than the first half with Kenyon Green? And he picked right up in the third quarter. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, there've been some like suspect quarterback play situations.
Well, let's say non-quarterback, just a position play.
Non-quarterback?
Yeah, non-quarterback, just any position. I mean, my first year here was Kareem Jackson's rookie season, which was
rough.
It was very rough. I was actually thinking to myself, like, what was worse? What has been worse? Was it Kenyon Green's performance today or A&M's performance all season? I think it's a tough call.
Dude. I think he's going to be a good player. It almost feels like with Kenyon Green, like the offseason just needs to get here. Like he needs to get stronger. He needs to get in better shape. He needs to like have some sort of learning experience. Like but I will say this, and I think this is fair. And I was talking to Andre Ware in the press box about this. He is playing some badass interior D linemen. Like it's not like he's going out there and just getting, thrown around by like Roy Lopez or, something like that. Like, he is playing some of the best interior D linemen in the league.
I mean, Philly has some good ones. The Giants with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, and then the Commanders with Jeffrey Simmons, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne got him a couple times. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's just surprising when you have the combination of penalties and him getting his ass kicked in pass protection that if Lovey is going to not blame the quarterback and exclusively blame the offensive line, and none of those guys got benched, then it leads you to wonder. I mean, they don't really have many options because you only have one backup there. If you bench Kenyon Green, it's you put in Justin McCray, who's also not good. But to answer your question directly, yes, I was a little surprised based on how rough it was that he didn't bench Kenyon Green today. Yeah, I was a little surprised.
And there are people like kind of piling on the O-line. I don't think the O-line has been bad. Like, the interior hasn't been great. But
there's a huge gap between, I think, the play on the outside with the tackles and the interior.
The tackles and the guards and center. And I don't really like for Kenyon Green, he's young. He got off to a bad start. There's probably a little bit of a learning curve. AJ Cann is AJ Cann. Like,
yep.
It's AJ Cann. And Questenberry is a good backup. And you went with the Justin Britt thing. We were talking about like a redraft earlier this week on the channel. And I was talking about, Stingley and Sauce and stuff. And I would still take Stingley because I think we'd be having the same discussion if they'd taken Sauce and then Stingley had gone to the Jets. I think we'd be saying, should they have taken Stingley?
Lovey would be playing Sauce Gardner like 10 yards off receivers.
Yes. Sauce Gardner would be playing like Jonathan Joseph did at the end of his Texans tenure. So I think we would be having that. But the Kenyon Green one is interesting because I do think he's going to be a good player. But you traded back. You could have used like a Jordan Davis on this team to stop the run. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And Linderbaum's just a really, really good player for Baltimore too.
Which everybody knew
Apparently, he's got short arms.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody knew. We talked about this last year with Cody. Everybody knew that Linderbaum was going to be a really good player. Everyone and their grandmother knew that.
You know what? You know what really pisses me off about this, and this has been like a rant that I've gone on 3 times this week on the show. Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610, 10 to 2 Central. Fire up the Odyssey app. It pisses me off that it always happens with the Ravens. Like, and it's like, it's literally like 15 years of that crap. Like, oh, Ed Reed's undersized. He's like a corner size. We don't know if he can be a safety. So the Cowboys take Roy Williams and Ed Reed falls in their lap. Lamar Jackson can't throw. Bill Polian's talking about it being a receiver. Oh, let's just trade up to the back end of the first round. Mark Andrews, man, he might be a little bit too much of a receiver and he has diabetes. So let's not take him. Orlando Brown had a crappy combine, so let's just take him. Like, it's always Baltimore who like just has common sense, and they just take guys who are good players.
Yeah, they just take guys who are good college football players. Not a revolutionary take.
And I don't really even have like an issue with Caserio drafting. I'm more so just like talking about
it's
Kenyon Green. I am worried about Dameon Pierce like not rushing for
beat up
30 more yards this year. Because
it's just frustrating to me that, and I think I've made this point before, but the Texans right now have, between Tunsil, Green, Howard, they have 4 first-round picks invested in this offensive line, and they actually have more when you think about guys who aren't here anymore but are still in the window, like Max Sharping. And it's like you have so much invested in this offensive line, and it's still well below average. And it's like, what do you need? Like 5, 8 first-round picks to be an above-average offensive line? That part to me is frustrating, and I do think Caserio
it's frustrating when you see other teams in the league be able to like kind of like scrap together an O-line too.
Absolutely, and I think Caserio deserves some level of criticism for bringing Justin Britt back. That was a mistake. Going out and signing A.J. Cann, like, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get better production in those spots. You knew Justin Britt. He was here last year. He was in your building, and it seems like Caserio has struggled to evaluate guys in his own building.
Someone brought up, Juan, I think brought it up. Shout out to Juan. Juan, what do you make of the Jaleel Johnson tweet saying the coaches got after him about going hard at Green and Questenberry in practice? He deleted the tweet, but it lives on forever. I have the screenshot. Someone sent it to me.
I guess there's a thing with football practice where maybe sometimes you don't want a defensive player to wreck the offense too much because then they can't, work on what they need to work on. But just given the overall results and what we're seeing offensively, it's hard not to look at that and say, are they doing things the right way? And this is like Jaleel Johnson. This isn't like Aaron Donald.
Yeah, and if you're Jaleel Johnson and you just got cut, you might not want to like burn bridges. Like, this is a pretty crappy team. You might get a phone call in a week. Like,
yeah, it was a little weird.
You're Jaleel Johnson. So what are you doing? We'll bring in Cody Stutes. We'll get Stutes in. I want to watch this Lovey first though.
Yes.
Lovie Smith kind of losing his bleep. This is as petty of a version of Lovie Smith as you'll probably ever hear. Here was Lovie Smith after the game.
So this year, you guys have scored under 18 points in the majority of games, and a lot of that does start with the quarterback. So will there be changing the quarterback position?
You asking me, am I going to change the quarterback position? That word. I mean, as I said, we consider all different things during the course of the game on whether making a move at any position would give us a better chance. But when you say it starts with the quarterback, no, it starts up front is where it starts. And today, with that type of pressure, I don't know how many quarterbacks could have had success. We consider all guys that are dressed if they will give us a better chance during the course of the game. If we made a move, we thought that was the way we should go. If we didn't, that's where it is.
Is there any chance you're going to eventually make that change this week?
I'm going to watch the video is what I'm going to do. We're going to evaluate it like we normally do. We don't make those kind of decisions 30 minutes after the game. No.
Thanks, Coach.
Before I get a chance to talk to all the coaches, no.
All right, this is where it gets good. Did you hear the Brian T. Smith?
I've heard it like 3 times. Absolutely.
All right, here's the Brian T. Smith back and forth. This is popcorn worthy.
I think most of you know that.
What more are you hoping to see from Davis Mills?
Production. What I want to see first is Davis Mills in front with protection, with a good running game, back him up, and with protection when he's passing the football.
Come on.
That's what we need to see first.
Chill.
So all of this is a base part of it all. It's just not one position. And guys, after game, I'm going to believe it, I'm going to talk to the guy. If there is something that we're going to do, I'm going to talk to the guys first at all positions. But right now, there's disappointment throughout. It just wasn't two positions that we're talking about.
This guy. Here we go.
Look, you mentioned the fans.
Here we go.
Better. I mean, I look out of the stands. They're mostly empty. You guys were booed multiple times. This has been happening all year.
No. Let me stop there. It hasn't been happening all year. You can say. Well, I'm talking about the fans booing us. All right.
You guys have been booed.
Yeah, we've been booed. Yes, and every time something is bad, fans are going to boo, and they have a right to do that. What is your question?
I was going to ask a question.
What is it?
How does this get better? How do you improve this?
By putting a better product on the football field.
Why didn't that happen today?
Because I didn't think I should do it today.
I didn't think I should do it.
Why were you guys not better today?
I'm not going to tell you that. All right. I mean, what do you expect me to say right now? We just got beat. Now, if there was something that we should have done right away, we would have done that right away. Where we are with our football team, we're searching for answers is what we're doing. And we'll keep working on different combinations.
Right, we come in and every week you're kind of telling us the same thing. You haven't made any changes. Why are you doing the same thing and you get the same result?
Because sometimes change for what? Just change to change? I think leave that up to us. All right. Right now, we don't think we're in that position. All right.
It was pretty good. I think we need more of that.
Yeah, you need more of that. But I mean, like, what is he? Lovey's something else, man. Lovey's something else.
Let me ask you this though. I feel like you've gotten frustrated the last couple of coaches when they've been losing. Bill, Culley last year. Like
Culley was frustrating from the beginning.
Yeah, no, I know. But like I think it's hard to come across well when you're a coach of the worst team in football. Like, how do you I'm not defending what Lovey said there because I don't think he's holding Davis Mills accountable. But in your experience as somebody who's been a football fan who covers football, like, how do you handle that well if you're the coach from a press conference standpoint?
I mean, like, keep your cool a little bit better than that. Like, I mean, it's
that wasn't that bad. I don't think he wasn't losing it.
It's a combination of everything. I think it's like, it's not necessarily just that. It's you got him saying, we're going to focus on the positives. You got him saying it's not about the quarterback. You got him saying, like, all these types of things. Look, I think Lovey, for right now, he's a perfect coach. I mean, it's perfect. I'm evaluating him long term. I don't think Lovey's the guy. I don't think Lovey is like a long time. And props to him because they needed someone that would bring some sort of credibility. Stutes joins us now. Stutes, you were in the press conference. What'd you think of Lovey today in the presser?
That wasn't the worst I've seen somebody act at a press conference, but it certainly wasn't the best that I've seen somebody act at a press conference. I would have been very interested to hear that press conference with David Culley at the helm because that would have been pure comedy, probably. But Lovie Smith, Mike's absolutely right.
It starts with me, and it starts with our football team.
Mike's absolutely right. The fact that Davis Mills can go basically uncriticized by the head coach when he's not going to be the quarterback next year, that's a bad job by Lovie Smith. I've called it at different times this season. I've called it pepitism instead of nepotism. It's guys that Pep Hamilton likes don't get criticized, but the guys who he maybe doesn't like or doesn't care for as much do get criticized. So it's pepitism that Davis Mills doesn't get criticized. It's pepitism that Pep Hamilton doesn't get criticized. And just not a great performance from Lovey when pressed about why he didn't make changes in the game. And you know, Mike's big thing
about him saying he didn't feel like being good at football.
Yeah, I feel like he was a little heated in that moment and he didn't say what he wanted to say. That's a bad, like, that reads and sounds really bad. What he, I think, was trying to intimate was, I didn't feel like making the change at that moment. I think I agree with Cody. What he was trying to say, It didn't come out that way at all, but that's what he was trying to say. But that'll be one of those things that's held against him. Here's the big thing about Lovie Smith. He's making it very easy to have a football-only conversation about his performance this offseason. And if you want to have a football-only conversation about Lovie Smith and his performance and the potential for him and the coaching staff that he hired and put together to lead this team, it's a pretty easy conversation to have. Now, if people want to come at the Houston Texans and bring in, minority coaches, and then yeah, you add some complications to the conversation. But I'm about the football team. I'm about winning and losing football games. And this is a bad football team that's gotten worse over the course of the year. It's poorly coached on almost every level. And they're not doing anything to demonstrate that they are the long-term answer for some of the issues that this organization has as a coaching staff. And so that's why it becomes very easy to have a football conversation about this coaching staff and moving on from a good portion of it or all of it.
I have a question, actually. So let's say they end up with the number 1 overall pick. What about the timeline of decision that you have to make with the head coach? Because, I imagine it's hard for Nick Caserio to figure in January if he's going to take a quarterback number 1 overall. Maybe he does, because there's the worry that
you have to know. You have to know by the time
they already know. They already know.
Okay, because my question is, what you don't want to end up in is in a situation where Lovie, a defensive guy, is coaching a number 1 overall pick at quarterback. Then you got to make this change in a year or two, and then I'm changing systems. That's what I don't want to have happen in 2023. That's why I ask. So you think he knows? You think he knows what he's going to do at number 1 right now if he gets it?
The Texans, yeah. I think they have a pretty good idea. I mean, they've been scouting these guys for a couple years now. They know what they need. They know who the guys are going to be up there. I don't think so.
And that's the only situation, if you have the number 1 overall pick, that's the only situation where no outside variable affects the way you want to go. Because if they feel like they don't want to take a quarterback at number 1, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just get somebody in free agency or we'll trade for somebody. Well, there could always be somebody that wants to pay more money than you do for the guy you want. There's always somebody that could trade maybe for the guy you want. So, if there's people out there that are thinking, well, Derek Carr for a year or two, or Jimmy Garoppolo, or any of these other guys who are going to be free agents, the Texans don't have full control over those guys showing up in Houston. They have full control over the number 1 overall pick showing up in Houston.
So do you guys think that based on that, do you think the decision has been made on Lovie, or is it still TBD?
God, I don't know. The only real pushback that I get, when you talk about Lovie, is perception. I hear there's a perception problem. I think it really just comes down to, do they like somebody? If they like somebody who's out there, then yeah, I think they'll make the call, because I do think this job is appealing. I don't know what the hell McClain and others are saying. It's to compare this situation to last year, I think it's silly. The Deshaun Watson trade is over. Jack Easterby's not here. You're going to have, 4 first-round picks the next couple of years. I think it really just going to come down to whether they like somebody to replace him or not.
Who gives a shit if it's appealing? Hire a great coach. You know what was not the most appealing position last year in the coaching cycle? The Giants. They might have hired the best coach of the entire cycle. You know what the most appealing position was? The Raiders. They're fighting the Texans for the top pick. Who gives a shit if it's appealing? If you hire a badass coach, it doesn't matter if your job's appealing or not, and you have the number 1 overall pick to make it super appealing.
Snoots, I mean, come on, dude. Who do you think they could have hired last year?
I'm not.
They could have hired Josh McCown or Jonathan Gannon. That's my answer.
Yeah, and how does that make you feel?
But I'm not talking about last year. I don't know. I'm talking about this upcoming offseason. I don't all the unnecessary crap that you'd have to deal with as the head coach is totally behind you this offseason.
Yes.
It's all behind you. The Jack Easterby shit's behind you. The no draft picks or lack of draft pick capital.
The Deshaun.
It's all behind you. It's all behind you by the time you hire a new coach this offseason. So I don't want to hear about if it's attractive or not, because the Giants' job was not the most attractive job, and they hired the best coach.
See, I don't want to hear about the perception. The perception to me is that if Nick Caserio's thinking that way, then I just think that's weird. I just think that's weird because, as Melt said, if a perception is going to prevent you from bringing someone in, then you're doing a disservice to your future quarterback. You're doing a disservice. Really, I think Jalen Petrie is developing some bad habits too in this raggedy ass system. I think this system's trash for Jalen Petrie. So you're developing all
Awful
kinds of
for
bad
Stingley,
habits
too.
Yeah, and Stingley's sitting there playing man zone, whatever the hell that is that they play. I can't even tell what the hell that is. And the other thing is this: like, you want to talk about perception, and you want to say, like, if you're worrying about perception, what happens if the Texans win one game this year and then they win 6 next year? And then they fire Lovey Smith after that, after a 5-win improvement. Like, if you're worried about perception, there's always going to be like some sort of like perception there. And that's the thing. Like, you can't sit here and function and make decisions like this just based on perception. Like, if you don't think Lovey's the guy, move on. And the reality is, this is not like some sort of new coach. Like, we've seen Lovie Smith coach for most of our lives. Like, most of our lives that we've been watching football, we know what Lovie Smith is. And he hasn't changed. Like, that's the other thing. Like, this year, like, if you were looking at Lovie Smith before this year and you were like looking at it optimistically and you were saying, all right, what does he do? Like, we thought that maybe he would make some tweaks to his system. He hasn't. It's the same damn system. It's the same raggedy ass offense in the philosophy where they try to force the run. Like, he tells you what he wants. Like, you know what Lovie Smith is. There's no mystery. Like, Lovie Smith's not going to change. So
I have a question. So does McClain want them? Because I know McClain likes Lovey. Does he want them to draft a quarterback and keep Lovey next year? Is that his plan?
And change the offense? Offensive
change the
coordinator.
offense.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's his take. Okay. I'm just kind of curious.
I mean, what do you think?
I was wondering because that to me is the biggest issue. Like, perception, no perception, whatever. If they're bringing in a brand new, fresh, young quarterback next season, then the arrow points to bringing in, to me, a new, likely offensive-minded head coach
or defense. Like, I don't care. Like, I want someone who, if D'Amico Ryans comes in and they're running what they run in San Francisco or something, like, I that's fine too. Like, I just don't like the Pep Hamilton thing is a disaster. Like, like, you can tell me that there's no talent and stuff. And I was being easy on him at the start of the season because I didn't know what he was supposed to do. But now we have a pretty large sample size, and it's very obvious why Pep Hamilton went as long as he did without being an offensive coordinator. Like, this is a disaster.
And why he was in the XFL a couple of years ago.
The what?
And why he was in the XFL a couple of years ago.
Yeah. That's the last time he called plays.
I just look at some of the teams that have been in the Texans' general position the last couple of years. The Lions, the Falcons. Yeah, Cody mentioned the Giants as well. And these teams they're not great offensively, but they're doing a lot more offensively with some significant limitations as compared to what the Texans have done.
The
Bears.
Bears.
I think sometimes. Yeah, the Bears. Absolutely.
The Bears.
Yes. Yeah. Like you don't have to have 11 all-pros to have a respectable offense. That's what frustrates me.
I would seriously consider, if I was Nick Caserio, I know this might fall under Lovie Smith's purview, but if I was Nick Caserio, I'd have this conversation. I'd seriously consider having Ben McDaniels call plays the rest of the year. Find out if he's an offensive mind.
Yeah, I think that's again.
See if it runs in the family.
Why not?
Yeah.
What's there to lose? The only thing that you can lose is the number 1 overall pick.
Yes.
But I don't think this team's going to have a problem losing some more football games.
Dude, Ben McDaniels was on that Pelissaro list, and I was like, what the hell is this based on?
That's hilarious.
Tom Pelissaro had his head coaches to watch. It was a deep-ass list. I mean, there's 60 names there, but he put Ben McDaniels, and I was like, what the hell is that based on?
I love those lists because I'm always reading those lists thinking like, okay, well, this guy must be getting some information from
this must be an agent.
All sorts of people on this giant list. That's what I'm always thinking.
But yeah, Ben McDaniels there. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, why not? You know what else needs to happen? And if Lovey's going to come back next year, he can't be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's got to change too.
And
I don't think
it hasn't worked.
And he can't promote his son to be the defensive coordinator either.
Oh my God.
That's what's going to happen. But like the defense, I know like they're strangely in games.
His son's the coach for the worst position group on the team.
My God, I'm looking at these linebackers. They got that Hanson guy
his
running
son's
around.
The linebackers coach. They can't promote that guy to the defensive coordinator. His unit's the worst unit.
Yeah, yes.
How about old Kirk?
How bad is the tackling? Like Brian Robinson gets stuffed and then he, ekes out a first down. It just that's more than just, to me, a talent issue. That is an effort, discipline, fundamental issue.
What about that Petrie dropped interception?
Another one.
Well, that's why he's not a wide receiver. Lovey let the effort word slip today, and then he caught himself.
The effort.
He said we just wasn't happy with our play, with our effort. Not our effort. He let it slip.
What's up with your boy giving him positives?
My boy.
Yeah, your boy at the press conference. It said there were some positives, and then Lovey said, "I can't wait to hear this." And he was talking about 4th down conversions.
That's not my boy. Some people get to ask questions in a particular order, and some people get to ask questions before other people, and there's only one microphone to go around. You raise your hand. If you get called, you get called. If you don't, you don't.
What did you think of me and Meltz were talking about this before you got in. I think you were still on the road. We were trying to figure it out. Meltz said maybe Kareem Jackson his rookie year. Non-quarterback, have you witnessed a worse half of football than Kenyon Green today? For a Texan.
Okay. Do we need to put this in context of a first round pick? Because there have been some guys that were not first round picks that played really bad football.
I mean, you can put it in any context you want. I mean, the dude was getting treated like a blocking sled.
There have been multiple times this year where he has been used as a device to tackle the quarterback, that's not good. That's not good. Yeah, it's been really bad. As far as first round picks goes, it's among the worst games a first round pick has ever played in the history of this franchise. And as far as just overall players, it's tough to do this with a wide receiver. Like Jalen Strong was not great. He could just not get the ball. But as far as first round picks goes, that's one of the worst performances by a first round pick I've seen in a long time. I'd go as far as to say, and look, I'm not some offensive line nerd, but I'd have a hard time thinking that there's very many offensive linemen that have been first round picks that have had that type of performance.
I mean, I'm sure there's been a tackle or something like that. Dwayne had some rough goes.
Tackle's understandable though. You face the second or third highest paid position on the team every week.
The problem I have here, and it's not necessarily a problem in the big scheme of things, but the problem I have with Kenyon Green is when they made that pick, and I was guilty of it, so I'm not pointing at anyone. I mean, it was, there's a plug and play guy. You don't have to worry about him. He's going to be good. That's your starting guard for the next 10 years or whatever. Plug him in. He's going to be good to go.
Your comment, Landry, about the offseason, he desperately needs the offseason.
No, he needs to hurt. His ass needs to get there.
Yep. He needs to get there rapidly.
He desperately needs an offseason. He's going to we'll find out everything we need to know about what type of player Kenyon Green's going to be.
What he looks like at minicamp. Once you just see that body at minicamp, after first week of April, whenever the rookie minicamp is, you see Kenyon Green, there should be a noticeable difference. There should be a noticeable difference in his body, period.
I want him walking in there like Tony Mandrich.
I'll say it again. That's the first pick that's a Deshaun Watson draft pick, which I think holds some sort of
so is Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think those picks hold a certain special value in a weird way because of everything that led up to that. And this is a team that, just based on where the roster is, they can't afford to miss on first round picks. It's really that simple. Otherwise, this rebuild is going to take forever.
Yeah, you can't.
They can't miss on those picks.
You can't.
Now, I'm not saying they have, but it shows you it is hard. That it's simple to say, guard, plug and play, 10 years, and then you face these guys who are man eaters, defensive linemen, and then you realize how hard it is. So the progression needs to be vast next season for Kenyon Green, to be sure.
I would be extremely interested to know what players were on their board ahead of the Kenyon Green selection and what players were close to Green on their board, because Caserio mentioned he had the opportunity to move back. He threw out the number 20, which it sounds like maybe the Steelers called to see if they could come up to get Pickett. He had the opportunity to move back. He would have been able to move back and potentially still get Green, but maybe the Chargers take him. But certainly could have gotten Tyler Linderbaum.
His arms are too short. You didn't hear?
Yeah, that's been a huge issue for him up in Baltimore when he's basically.
I'm just telling you what they said. I mean,
they're basically
watched him play,
fitting him for a damn gold jacket.
Yeah,
or he could have traded back to that spot and drafted George Karlaftis and helped this pass rush.
Who seems like their kind of guy. I also wonder. I'm looking at the picks. I don't think he was going to make it because there was obviously the run on receivers, but I wonder what would have happened had Chris Olave slipped 2 more spots if they would have strongly thought about going in that direction.
He better be wearing a Texans jersey if he was slipping 2 more spots.
Because that's a guy. Now, I think that the Saints invested way too much in this offseason and they're not good. But Chris Olave, I always thought was just a winning football player, just a flat-out stud. I
wonder, based on Caserio's affinity with the SEC, if he actually wanted Jameson Williams and not John Mechie.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been okay with that too.
That would have been like a red shirt pick, though. That was kind of like a.
That's fine.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Kind of wish Kenyon Green got a red shirt sometimes too.
Some pretty good receivers coming out this year. I think they just need to just load up on offense. Screw it. Just load up on offense this drive. Just get some excitement.
I have no big philosophy until I see the picks, and this team they're so talent deprived that I'm fine with anything.
I'm so much more comfortable spending money in free agency on front 7 players than I am pretty much anywhere else on the team. And so address the front 7 with really good free agents and then address the offense and build something fun and nice with the picks.
How much pressure is there on Caserio for the product to look substantially better next season? Just signs of improvement. Yeah.
Next season, a lot. Like next season, there has to be. I mean, you have to be in the. God, this is pathetic. 5-6 win range. Like you have to be competitive, and there has to be like some sort of like you have to have cornerstones like this like nickel and dime crap. Like next year, you have to have cornerstones. Like whether it's Will Anderson, whether it's the quarterback,
Bryce
whatever,
Young.
you have to have cornerstones and you have to compete. If you play like this again, yeah, there's going to be a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
See, I'm so glad you said the word cornerstones. It feels like this draft, they added building blocks, but not cornerstones.
And I don't know that there was a cornerstone. I think the only cornerstone that like with where they picked,
Hutchinson was the only guy that they even would have been close to cornerstone.
I think Sauce Gardner is going to be, or might already be, a really, really good player.
He'd be totally wasted here. Stingley would be doing the same damn thing. Stingley would be doing the same damn thing in New York. He'd be totally wasted here.
But I'm talking
about,
you would
be saying the same thing about Stingley if you were in New York. Same thing.
That's very possible. But I'm just saying, like, when the coach is not Lovey Smith, are we still confident that Stingley is going to be a star cornerback? Because that is that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Is he going to be the best young cornerback? No, I don't believe he is, because J.C. Horn is phenomenal in Carolina. Surtain is really good in Denver. And obviously Sauce Gardner's awesome. But if Derek Stingley is one of the 5-6 best cornerbacks in football in a couple of seasons, like that's a solid selection.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. I'm really intrigued to see how they handle free agency too. Like really intrigued to see how.
Because there's got to be pressure, as you guys are saying, to get better.
It's so tough to try to figure out how they're going to attack free agency, because we don't even know what coach they're going to have, what defense they're going to run. Like, I tell you what, Lovie Smith's here. I don't want him getting no defensive tackle.
Do you get a sense that Mills is getting benched? I kind of feel like it's happening this week.
Oh, you think it's happening before the game against Miami?
I think so. I kind of felt like.
Why wasn't he benched today, though?
Isn't
it easier to make the mid-game benching and then kind of reassess?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it, like Kyle Allen, like on the sidelines, was kind of like he was putting his helmet on, he was moving around a little bit. So I don't know if that was just like something that he always did, but I found myself like looking at him. but I feel like Mills, and I could be completely wrong. I feel like Mills gets benched this week, and I think it might happen as soon as tomorrow.
Are you guys familiar with the Wall Street term, the dead cat bounce?
Yes, very familiar.
Basically, to sum it up, is right before a stock really, really goes in the tank, it shoots up really quick for just a moment. I almost feel like this organization wants their dead cat bounce to be the Cleveland game. And I almost feel like Kyle Allen is the key to the dead cat bounce. And so they didn't want to go to it too early.
So Kyle Allen's gonna get his first start against the Browns, and they're gonna take it on the chin against Miami, and then Kyle Allen's gonna like be the savior against the Browns.
They're gonna put Kyle Allen in the Miami game, and then he starts the Cleveland game. They beat the Browns, and then they're bad for the rest of the year.
You know what though? That would be like, as far as like TJ Yates kind of took that playoff win for his entire life, and like he's like a Texans legend because of the win in the playoff game against Cincinnati. If Kyle Allen starts that Browns game and he wins that Browns game,
they should carry him off the field. They should
carry him. Poor man's TJ Yates.
They should get everybody and carry him off the field if they beat the Browns and he's his first start.
I don't know if I want to win that game. Although
the one thing is, though, you got to root for the Raiders to start winning one of these games.
Dude, that's the thing that I'm paying the most attention to.
Me too.
Because the tiebreaker means nothing because of the tie that the Texans had. So you need the Raiders. They're tied right now at 10 in the third. So if you get that, you're in good shape because Detroit's winning. They're finding ways to win. Carolina somehow found ways to win games. Like, you don't have a lot of threats right now. So if the Raiders can pull this off, then today was an excellent day. Are you in the you want them to lose category, Melts?
Oh, yeah. I want them to play much better than they have been, like specifically in the game today and the game against Tennessee, which I thought was pretty non-competitive. I just want to see a better product and then lose anyway, which I don't think that's hypocritical to want. I want more competitive losses.
If the Raiders win, then the Texans will have the 1-5 pick. Right now they have the 1-6 on Tankathon.
Yeah.
So,
and right now
and you would have a 2-game cushion over anyone else. So you would be in really, really, really good shape there. So that's what you want.
Yeah, 2-game cushion. You're right. I was going to say.
And keep in mind with the Raiders, like I'm just looking at, strength of schedule is the tiebreaker. So if the Raiders and Texans tied, I don't know.
There's not going to be a tiebreaker.
Well,
because of the tie.
Because of the tie. Fair point. Yes.
Well, it's not totally out of the question that as bad as these two football teams play right now, it's not out of the question that the Broncos and the Raiders tie today. It's not totally out of the question.
It is not out of the question. It's weird to me because I feel like, and this was proven on the field, the Raiders have had a wildly disappointing season, but they are a way better football team than Houston is.
I'm starting to think Josh McDaniels is just dumb.
Yeah, I don't know if he's dumb, but he just might not be an effective head coach.
He is the epitome.
All right, dumb as a head coach.
He's the epitome of can't do it as a head coach, great coordinator.
So he's Romeo Crennel type.
Is McDaniel? I mean, hell, even North Turner didn't do stuff like this.
Yeah, this is bad. They went all in on this season.
I thought the Raiders were gonna win the division. That's how stupid I was.
I thought they had a pretty decent chance to get to the playoffs.
I thought they were going to be effing good.
Over in my drawer over there across the room, I've got a Derek Carr MVP ticket because I felt like they were going to take it to the next level.
Can you just go grab that and rip it?
Yeah, you may as well.
Yeah, let's just do it.
You're holding on.
Why is that still in your drawer? That's what I want to know.
So I don't look at it a lot. I got a Texans over ticket sitting right next to it. So
I actually. Unrelated, I have a Falcons over under 4.5 that I can now burn after today.
Oh, you had under?
I had under 4.5. Yeah.
Why'd you bet against Arthur, man? Arthur's a good coach, man.
No, he's a good coach. Well, they won 1 million close games last year. Their DVOA was awful, and so I thought they'd regress the mean.
Of course, it was DVOA motivated. Mike Meltz was betting with his DVOA mind.
I neglected to really think about how lousy that division was.
I have a dumb scenario question.
Okay.
If they fired Lovie Smith in season, who would be the interim head coach?
Who would be the interim head coach?
Yeah.
Oh man.
They'd probably let Pep. They'd probably let Pep.
I wouldn't reward as bad as Pep's been. It's been so bad. I'd make Frank Ross.
Frank Ross.
I'd make Frank Ross the interim head coach, or I would make Andre the interim head coach.
And now you can
Jeff
do it.
Saturday.
Now you can do it.
Yeah, because the Colts did it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this coaching staff, and there are not many options.
Man, that's the other thing that concerns me about Lovey is and I know this is like a while ago, but when I heard like he fired Ron Rivera because he was a threat to him and there was like some issues, I thought about like Bill O'Brien like hiring just like yes men on his staff. And I don't know how good of like how good Lovey
Staff
is
builder?
at like hiring guys on his staff.
Yeah, the staff buildings leaves a lot to be desired.
The question I have about the staff, though, with all due respect, is how much of that is Lovey and how much of that is Caserio?
I don't know.
I almost wonder if Caserio just was hands off once he had to hire Lovey.
Yeah, maybe, and that's why you have guys like Miles Smith here.
He's not. I mean, Caserio not even wearing a headset this year.
How do y'all think this whole thing played out? Like, because it's really fascinating. The coaching thing. Like, now that we look at it, like, we know what the process was. We know who they interviewed, and we knew who the final 3 candidates were before Lovey ended up being the guy. Like, do y'all think that McCown was 100% just an Easterby thing? And if so, how weird is it that it got to that point? I wondered, like, off record, what Nick would say about McCown. Because I've always I liked McCown 6 years before they even, thought about it.
Nick Caserio is showcased in his decision-making process that your resume is not nearly as important to him as your potential. Because on resume, Sauce Gardner had a better resume than Derek Stingley. He picked Derek Stingley. Davis Mills had basically no resume. He picked Davis Mills. Resume has not been of high importance to Nick Caserio. He likes what your potential is, and he will bet on your potential. And so I'm wondering if he got sold on the potential of McCown.
Well, I mean, and he had a quote. I forgot what the exact quote was. It was like, you could have a guy who's not very experienced or something like that. It was just like a hypothetical. And he said, I wonder like what he thought of that. Because the Gannon thing was weird. It seemed like Gannon was going to be the guy.
Yes.
And then Gannon goes back. So I just wonder what like that whole process was like.
I think
I'd be interested to know how far it got with O'Connell.
That's another thing because they interviewed him. I think this is not hindsight because I was actually on the air on Mad Dog Sports Radio the night they hired Lovey. So I have like 18 minutes of audio evidence of what I thought about the hire. And it seemed to me, and you guys are in it every single day, it seemed to me that there was like a sigh of relief that, oh, well, we avoided disaster by hiring a guy with an actual football resume.
Yes.
But I was sitting there thinking like, okay, the problem was the credibility factor that everybody was going to link Josh McCown to Jack Easterby. If Jack Easterby had never existed and Nick Caserio just hired Josh McCown, yes, it would have been viewed questionably and it would have been met skeptically across the NFL, but it would have not been the same firestorm. It would have been in Houston because of that connection.
Yes, and it's sins of the past. It's definitely like the sins of the past. Like they're having to suffer for the sins of the past, and that's kind of like would have put Josh McCown in a worse situation because of that. Yes, and you had the Watson stuff. Like it was just a complete revolving door of shit. Like it was just constant. It was always something. So yeah, they couldn't do it. And look, man, like if the Texans right now, like if they had a coach that was coaching them up to like 5-6 wins, like how productive would that be? I mean, he might be the perfect guy for the gig.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the position that the Falcons and the Giants are in, right? Or the Lions, where you know that you probably don't have the quarterback of the future, but you can look at what's going on and say, especially with the Giants, and say, okay, maybe this is going to hurt us long term to get the right quarterback, but at least it looks like we got the coach right. Whereas the Texans, it's the opposite. They don't have the coach right, but the benefit of having this record is they will most likely have their choice between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. So they don't have to worry that they're overachieving, and that might hurt them long term at this point.
I was also extremely critical of the pivot to Lovie Smith. Like, if you felt like you couldn't hire Josh McCown, you didn't have to hire Lovie Smith. You could have reopened the coaching search, and then you were the only team hiring at that point because it looked like New Orleans was headed towards Dennis Allen. You were the only team hiring at that point. You could have interviewed and talked to whoever you wanted at that point. You didn't have to go to Lovie Smith, but much easier to fire Lovie Smith after 1 year than opening the coaching search and going and getting Lombardi's grandson or Gannon or someone's quarterback's coach or something like
grandson.
that. God. Yeah.
There had to have been at least when the Colts did what they did with Saturday, there had to have been a collective hell yes with the Texans. Hell yes. They kind of took the pressure off of you, or they did something unconventional.
Well,
there had to have been some sort of fist pump.
It helps validate your line of thinking that hopefully you never have to use again. Because McCown is a better head coach option than Saturday was.
Yeah, no question about it.
McCown was more qualified to be a head coach than Jeff Saturday was.
Yeah.
But I think that ship has sailed. But yeah, you're right. I think it probably gave them some internal validation.
You're positive? I'm just kidding.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm
gone.
Yeah, I think 75%.
What I there is to me, it's dangerous to have this line of thinking sometimes, but because especially what's going on right now, I just want Nick Caserio to have a bit more what would Belichick do?
You sure?
Maybe
isn't that what Bill O'Brien did? Isn't that what Bill O'Brien did?
Let me rephrase. Not a what would Belichick do, because Belichick's got two bumbling idiots calling his offense this year. But maybe it's a would Belichick do this? Belichick would have not hired Josh McCown. Belichick would not have hired Lovie Smith, but Belichick would not have hired Josh McCown. And so I almost want that to, I don't want McCown to be a candidate anymore. I damn sure don't want Hines Ward to be a candidate either.
Yeah, those kind of names would surprise me. I think you'd have my sense is
they ran
have a substantially different list.
They ran a much better coaching search when there was a 0.01% chance Deshaun Watson was going to be the quarterback than the time when they knew they were getting picks for Deshaun Watson.
Keep in mind, if you go back over the last, whatever it is, 15, 17 years, when they hired at the time Gary Kubiak and Bill O'Brien, those were some of the most sought-after coaches in the football world at that point.
Absolutely.
Gary Kubiak was a multi-time Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator who had turned down other head coaching opportunities and then got the Texans job. Bill O'Brien, whatever people think of him now, was a guy who was somewhat successful.
He was a top list for everybody.
Top list for everybody, did a pretty good job at Penn State for 2 years. I know this relates back to Landry's point about the perception of the job, but I would like this organization to get back to that point with Bob McNair, where even though they weren't winning big, the job itself was considered a primo job in the NFL because of the combination of, stability, city, everything else. And that has been sorely lacking the last two searches.
Also, this is something Landry has talked about before. You go in San Francisco, you go from the one and done to the top candidate on the entire market, which was Kyle Shanahan.
Yes. Now, they're a legacy franchise, which the Texans are not. But yeah, I would love to find their Kyle Shanahan. I would love that.
And it wasn't the same GM, so some people have mentioned that, but they went one and done. And it was a post Harbaugh, kind of post BOB type.
And kind of similar, you had one coach who never should have been a head coach the first year. The second year, you went with kind of a retread with an actual resume. That didn't work out. And then you went with a, young up-and-coming big star. Damn,
kind of sounds like Houston, doesn't it?
Yep.
Had a coach that probably shouldn't have been a head coach with a retread that didn't have a great resume. Then you went with an up-and-coming star?
Yes.
Wouldn't mind that.
What do you guys make of the discussion? I don't know if this is just a Twitter thing or what, but I do see a lot of this stuff about like, well, maybe they should wait until 2024 and draft
Caleb Williams like a mofo. 4 people came up to me and talked about Caleb Williams today.
My problem is I just don't think that's a plan, because I know sometimes we can get ahead of ourselves, but barring something incredibly surprising, like this is a guy who was a big recruit out of high school. He's played great at 2 different schools. He might win the Heisman Trophy at this point, given what he did last night. Like, you're going to have to be most likely the worst team in football again next season to have a shot at him. Like, and I just don't think that's a realistic plan.
I mean, it could happen.
It could happen.
If they don't draft,
his leg could fall off in the middle of a game the next year too,
and he could end up not being great. Like, it's the thing that I don't want to happen is if they don't want to draft a quarterback this year, don't draft a quarterback.
Fair.
Trade, stockpile picks, build your roster. But if they say, well, we're waiting for Caleb Williams, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, they can't do that. And even with that, Landry, they would have to, given the way Mills is playing right now, they have to bring in somebody else next season. This current situation is not sellable to the fans for 2023. It is not.
You have the perfect, if you hire the right coach, if you hire a coach that this fan base can get excited about, real excited, not thank God it's not McCown excited. I'm talking about real excited. You hire the right coach, you draft a quarterback number 1, you debut new jerseys, total new era of Texans football.
Yeah.
Total new era of Texans football. It's right there in front of you.
That's why I think that there's going to be kind of I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but there's going to be some pressure if they end up number 1 to draft a quarterback, no matter what they think, just because you guys are there every single week or every 2 weeks. Like, we see that this is NFL Siberia. We see the stands. We see the vast amount of apathy in the just around the city. And I'm not saying this is a good reason to make any decision, but it is out there. It is obvious. And a young quarterback would change that instantaneously.
You could play, like, right now with where they are, like, you could have soccer tournaments in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I'm at tailgates every day. Like, it's dead. And there's really nothing. I mean, people don't even know what jersey to buy.
Yeah.
There's no face of the franchise.
I still think it remains the worst situation in the NFL. It may be Denver's is worse because of how much they're locked into Russell Wilson, but I don't know what else is worse right now.
The only thing that could get worse is if all of a sudden Trevor Lawrence turns out not to be any good in Jacksonville, because they bombed the first pick this year. That guy stinks.
Wait, you think he's bad?
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson's way better.
They overthought that.
Well, I was under the impression that because, Aiden didn't put up stats in the game that Michigan got blown out by Georgia, that Aiden wasn't going to be any good. But that's neither here nor there.
What stats did Walker put up, Mike?
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally being facetious. I'm still very angry at those people. I have some bookmarks on Twitter about that nonsense.
About how much he sucks.
but I actually thought that Aiden Hutchinson, I always thought was going to be a good to very good player. Isn't the issue with Walker just like penalties, technique? He hasn't been bad.
If hadn't got a penalty against the Texans, we would be smooth sailing for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, we'd be in great shape. Yes.
The issue is that they drafted him to be a pass rusher, and he's not a pass rusher.
But it might take time.
Mike, you can either rush the passer or you can't.
Sometimes these things take time, Cody. You got to be patient.
How many number 1 overall guys turned into awesome pass rushers like 3-4 years after their career got going?
I'd have an answer, but
I might need to research that. Clowney. It didn't happen with Clowney. Clowney he'll develop the pass rush moves. He'll learn to swim move. He'll do this.
Yeah, Clowney's better. Clowney's better.
Clowney's a run stopper, man.
Clowney's die to be Jadeveon Clowney right now.
Yeah, Clowney is better than Travon Walker. I agree.
I mean, they picked this guy number 1 overall. He can't play.
I don't agree that he can't play. I think that's a little harsh.
Mike, the other guy that got picked right behind him at the same position that was the no-duh Captain America, All-American boy is awesome. He has an interception. Trevon Walker barely has a sack.
Hey, I think Aiden's got 2 interceptions because he had one today and he had the other in the red zone against Rodgers.
Or against Rodgers, you're right. You're right.
Well, and then he forced, as Landry pointed out, the pick 6 last week with Fields because he was in the passing lane.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's played very well.
Glad Jacksonville didn't get him.
I was on the air the whole offseason on Sirius XM. I said that Jacksonville should have gone with Hutchinson. It would have been, to me, just the overall safer pick. And I saw somebody, commented on Bryce Young. I genuinely if I didn't live in Houston and had no connection with the Texans, Bryce is not the perfect prospect. We know that. But the dude has some magical qualities to him. He has some special abilities.
Dude, I'm not worried about his size. I'm not worried about his size.
I am worried about his size, but I would just I'm a Jets fan. They took Zach Wilson. It's probably not going to work out. Sometimes you got to take a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, and there's no consequence when you have all the draft equity. Where drafting a quarterback hurts you the most, and it not working out, is if you're a quarterback away or you invest 2 first-round picks to trade up for this guy, and all of a sudden you're sacrificing your future for it. If you have 4 first-round picks and you take a quarterback and it doesn't work out, the Jets aren't set back because Zach Wilson can't play at all, because they did everything else right. If you do everything else right, you find a coach, you develop players, you get talent in there. They got some draft equity because of the Jamal Adams trade.
Jamal Adams.
There's really not much of a consequence for it if it doesn't work out.
Bryce Young plays a winning style of football at the college level. Zach Wilson never played a winning style of football at the college level. That's what I prioritize when I'm going after a quarterback. Do you play a winning style of football?
I think it's fair because Wilson was more of a projection based on arm and some of the plays he can make. When you watch Bryce Young play, what stands out is that he's very comfortable in the pocket. He likes maneuvering in the pocket. He doesn't shy away from pressure.
He's a damn star too. If you're talking about a star, he's already on Dr. Pepper commercials. I know I like to bring this up a lot.
He took that kid's place in his family. He's the son now. He calls the mom. He calls the dad. It's on the commercial.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm
famous for not watching commercials, but I actually get the reference.
that's actually one of the best commercials in recent Dr. Pepper history. He's like, oh, dad. He's like, oh, it's just a nickname he calls me sometimes. She's like, yeah, he calls me mom.
What do you guys think of CJ Stroud?
He's good on the Heisman trophy, the Heisman House commercials too. Bryce is good on the Heisman House commercials. He's a star.
Yeah, he's got some magnetism. Yeah, he's got.
Put him on the billboard. Put his jersey in the front.
Sure.
Let him be a voice.
Let him wear whatever number he wants. Everybody else has to give up their number if he wants their number. And then after mini camp, before the summer happens, you debut the new jersey. Boom. And he's at the press conference to debut it.
Fair.
And with the other pick, you take Will Anderson or Carter.
Well, we got to see where that pick's going to end up. Right now, it would be number 6. I think it's going to be lower than that because I think the Browns will beat the Texans. I think, and I think they'll win 1 or 2 others. But that's been a wildly disappointing season for them.
In the draft process, you talk to Bryce and you ask him, which of these wide receivers do you think you could win with the most? And then you draft whichever wide receiver is his favorite.
Oh, so you use the Cleveland pick on a receiver? Yeah.
You ain't gonna have Brandon Cooks. Nico Collins not a number 1 wide receiver.
No, I agree with that.
That or you draft one of the Clemson guys.
The lineman,
the defensive
lineman.
Yeah, D lineman,
edge guy.
Yeah,
those guys are good.
There's not ever going to be a Luke Kuechly again, is there?
Well, football's kind of moved in a different direction, right?
Oh, Luke Kuechly couldn't play in modern football now, Mike?
No, it's more that
he'd be one of the best players in football, in modern football. He could do everything.
No question. Yeah. I wonder if the way that football is going.
Brown, Chubby Bear says, who drinks Dr. Pepper? Everyone. Gargle it.
Horrible take. I used to buy the 3 liters in college.
Yeah. Dr. Pepper is that's a Texas soda, man.
I drank more Dr. Pepper than I drink water for a good portion of my life.
You know what's bothering me that McClain has done now multiple times?
What is he doing now?
Dude, he keeps bringing up Mechie's coming back next year, and I'm like, dude, can you we don't know what type of player Mechie's going to be. Let's can we just have him practice and see what's going on?
I think. Here's what I would say to defend McClain.
He's so technically they got 12 draft picks because Mechie coming back is technically a 12th.
That second round wide receiver run has not been super nice like a couple of years ago. It was.
Yeah. I think. Listen, I'm assuming the cancer is not expected to like affect him physically long term. I don't know that for a fact, but that's just my supposition. So I think it's fair to factor him in, but they will need more help at receiver.
He
with
tore
that,
his ACL too. Like he hasn't played in a while. Like let's just see what happens. Like I'm not sitting here looking at the wide receiver room and saying like what John Mechie is or isn't going to be doesn't impact anything I do at the wide receiver position at all.
Yeah, I think that's valid, especially at the high end when you're talking first round, second round. Yeah,
and I think he could be a good player. I'm not taking it. I'm just saying like let's slow down a little bit.
Man, he was a better college player. I know he had the injury stuff, but if you weren't worried about injury stuff, George Pickens sure would have been nice on this team.
Man,
which leads you to wonder sort of about like
character.
What kind of players Caserio is willing to bring
We had a
in.
Boy Scout call on Sports Radio 610. It only took 10 minutes into the pregame show. Everybody, this is just a bunch of Boy Scouts.
Probably could have used somebody like George Pickens in that wide receiver room. I bet you Brandon Cooks ain't mouthing off with George Pickens sitting over the corner.
That part doesn't bother me as much as it is like they keep trying to pump up these guys as culture guys who aren't culture guys.
No, and I think that's you lose credibility. Like that's where you really lose credibility because like for a wise ass like me to like sit there and say, oh, they overvalue culture and what is culture and it's so stupid. And, Jack used to be like, all this culture is stupid. And it's like, I guess some people might take that with a grain of salt just because this wise ass is making fun of something that matters. But when your culture guys basically say, fuck off, I don't want anything to do with you. By the way, do we know what's up with Justin Britt?
We do not know what's up with Justin Britt.
Like Kamu Grugier-Hill wants out and Brandon Cooks wants out and all this type of stuff.
Mark Ingram got traded.
Yes.
David Culley was like, he's here for more than the football. And then 2 weeks later, he was in a Saints uniform.
I was talking to somebody.
Gone though, but all these guys are gone, and it's.
I was talking to somebody I respect a lot about Kamu Grugier-Hill, and I'm not going to say who it is, obviously, but they were like, listen. The way Kamu was viewed in other places in the NFL, Kamu's fine, but he's not a culture guy.
Dude,
like that's just not who he is.
And like Rex Burkhead, like what value? Like if you're a great guy, what is the value of having a guy who's like statistically one of the worst running backs in football? Like what? Like I thought they overdid the value. And look, I do think that the culture thing could be an Easterby thing. Like, but man, when like what
it's along the lines of when Bill O'Brien talked about how versatile everybody was, and then special teams was ass every year.
Versatility.
It's like they haven't added one guy that's like, oh, this is the special teams ace. They haven't added one of those guys on this roster, and Frank Ross is over here coached up one of the best special teams units in football.
Also,
someone says, look at Sauce and his character and just the track record of the Texans. They love to pick introverted players. Yeah, and I don't think Sauce is like see, for me, like I don't think
he was in the eye. He was in the eye more than Stingley, but he's a football nerd just like Stingley is.
But I think I do wonder about that because Cool Breeze is not the first person to bring that up. That Sauce Gardner has a certain
personality. He's got swagger. Yeah, he's loud. He likes chains, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who like
heads out of Green Bay.
But I've never heard a coach like I talked to Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell swears by him. Like it's not
sure.
Like it's not like a character. For me, I don't like. Who's the best player in the AFC South right now? If you had to vote,
Jeffrey Simmons.
Yes, I don't think the Texans. If Jeffrey Simmons falls into the Texans' lap, I don't know that they're gonna take him.
Yeah, I agree. Based on the criminal charges that he had, I agree with that.
Yeah, there was. I think his sister was getting beat up or something, and he jumped in or whatever, and he
it
tore
was
his
a weird
ACL.
Deal.
I could see that they obviously have shown they're willing to take someone with a torn ACL. They did that with Mechie, but like I don't know, like if Jeffrey Simmons falls in your lap, like I don't know that they do that. Although I do wonder, like, and I think this is where we're going to learn, and this is why it's kind of exciting being in this process. New England was willing to do it, and I think that like Stoots, when you said like would Belichick do this, like that to me like. And I don't know that you do it like at this point, but like New England was willing to, do that. Like I don't know if the Texans would be or not. I think it'll be interesting to see with Caserio. Bring in disgruntled players or guys with, you know.
I mean,
suspect character.
Belichick famously has done that over the last 20 years. And you wonder if Caserio and Cal are willing to do that sort of thing. Because you think about guys like Sauce and you think about some of these big personalities, like with what's going on in Houston, it kind of feels like we need more of some of those guys, that things need to be uncomfortable as long as this keeps going on.
Brown Chubby Bear brought up the freaking Batista bomb that Damian
gut
Pierce
wrench
got.
suplex.
Said that they should have fought Washington after. They didn't. They don't pick Mills up after he's sacked. The team isn't a team. I will say Brandon Cooks was pretty pissed off on the Pierce thing, and he was kind of going at the.
Tytus Howard got in the mix on that pretty quick.
Yeah, I thought they kind of had his back there.
Yeah,
how about,
I thought so
how about
too. Mike
not knowing that wasn't Hassan Ridgeway?
Yeah, I didn't know who John Ridgeway was. I don't know who that was.
I couldn't have picked him in a lineup.
No,
to be honest with you.
I would have guessed fake player if we were playing real player, fake player, dead player.
The Charles Barkley. Who does he play for?
Who he play for?
Who did he play for?
Who he play for?
Yeah, I would. I don't even know like what he would have done there.
What do you think is going on in Davis Mills' mind right now? These are the random things that
I don't
intrigue
think
me.
I don't want to be body language guy, but I don't know that he loses too much sleep over this. Like I feel like he's just like so robotic that I don't think anything can really phase him. I think he's fine.
That is what it seems like.
I wonder if Davis Mills looks at his life and is like, for the long term and up to this point, I've been dealt a pretty good hand, but my football hand has been a pretty shitty hand because the Stanford thing clearly sucked ass. He left early because they basically acted like COVID was the bubonic plague in California, and he wasn't sure if they were going to actually play football again, and he didn't want to transfer, and so he left early. And I mean, not that he I don't know. I still see people pumping up this Tanner McKee kid who replaced him as a prospect. They beat like 2 FBS teams in like 2 years. David Shaw is like brutal.
Remember when David Shaw? Remember when I'm the expert.
Said he was a first-round pick.
Do you remember when David Shaw lied to the nation and said Davis Mills would have been a first-rounder in the 2022 NFL draft? Stop stealing money, David Shaw. Did you see that field goal they kicked on Saturday night to end the game when they were down by 10?
To cover?
God, he annoys me.
To try to, I mean, they didn't want to cover him, but
it takes such little stuff for Mike to just completely be out on somebody. He will never take David Shaw serious because he hyped up Davis Mills. Like he will
never a first-round pick.
I'm not taking David Shaw.
I will say this, and I said this to David Shaw, like when we had him on, like at least show me one college coach who doesn't say how great his player is. I've never seen it. Like at least Dabo was kind of like the Michael Jordan stuff made some sense with Deshaun.
Yeah, I was fine with that. I was totally fine with that.
I enjoyed watching Deshaun play. There was
Yeah.
a clutch factor there.
Well, compared to this, absolutely, yes.
Gordon had cigars and gambling. Deshaun had massages.
Yes. I'm kind of weirdly like rubbernecking excited about the Deshaun game in a couple weeks.
Oh, you should be. You know what? You know what my offseason thing, they need to try to make Dameon Pierce the second best running back. Like they need to
You've been big on that all year.
Yeah, they're gonna wear his ass out.
What do you think Eno's here for? He's here to save us all.
Shut up.
Eno Benjamin.
Is he gonna play?
Eno Rex Burkhead. That's for sure.
Can I get another story about the restaurant recommendations that JJ and Hopkins gave to Eno Benjamin?
I'm about to go to one,
please?
I'm about to go to one. I'm going to the Japanese one, the expensive. It's my girl's birthday, so I'm going to it. What's it called? It's expensive.
Is it like Kata Robata or one of those?
Kata Robata? Yeah, Kata Robata. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I'd been to all his other recommendations, so I'm gonna check this one out.
How hard is it to learn how to run the football in 5 days?
I don't know. How hard is it for Tyler Johnson to get to play a snap? I understand the Armani Rogers because
he's not going to be the return man. Like, you can't just get him out there and
Thankfully.
return the football. He's actually going to play wide receiver for this team. But like Danny Barrett's Danny Barrett survived 3 coaching staffs when running back has been one of the worst positions on this team. Now Dameon Pierce is good.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I'm not going to blame
him.
Danny
Now
Barrett.
Dameon Pierce is good.
You're going to blame Danny Barrett for David Johnson?
We can't. No,
come on, Scoots.
I'm giving him credit for Dameon Pierce.
You sound like hitting coach baseball fan.
We can't get.
Why don't they fire the hitting coach?
Hitting coach baseball fan.
Why don't they fire the hitting coach?
No, you guys are taking me out of context. Why can't we get Eno Benjamin ready in 4 days? We can't get Eno Benjamin ready. Hit the hole, Eno.
The Jets traded for James Robinson and then played him a little bit. Not too much the following week. So I usually defer to the team when it comes to the playbook because that can look ugly if the guy has no idea what's going on.
The bar is low, though.
Oh, yeah.
Rex Burkhead knows the damn playbook inside and out, and it looks terrible every time he's on the field. At least put somebody on there. It's good.
Well, we'll see what happens next. Boy, this Miami game should be fun. I'm really excited to see what Mike McDaniel's going to do against these guys.
How open is the middle of the field going to be in this one? Because that is where they like to eat, man.
How about Lovey Smith against the worst wide receiver room in football playing zone and letting Darius Slayton and company get after it? And then he comes out playing man against the Commanders, and Terry McLaurin's out here eating people alive.
If you're not going to play, with
his best corner sitting on the bench.
If you're not going to play man-to-man against the Giants, you're not going to play man-to-man.
If Derek Stingley is worth the crap, and if Lovie Smith's got any balls, it's Derek Stingley and the Cheetah manned up next week.
Oh, come on.
Let's go.
I think that's a bad idea.
Let's go.
That's a bad idea.
Let's go.
No.
It's a little much for me.
Steven Nelson over there on Waddle.
I just want I want a live feed of Mike McDaniel watching film of this Texans defense.
My favorite thing to do is watch the opposing coach try to say good things. Yes. I like the opposing coach like trying to say good things. All right, I'm going to tell you all this. A week from today, you know what we'll be saying, right? You know what
hired Mike McDaniel?
No, you know what next week's Kenyon Green is, right?
Derek Stingley?
The safeties.
Okay.
The safeties next week are going to have a rough go of it.
If they're in the frame. I just run past him.
I was surprised Petry's been benched a couple of times this year for Eric Murray, and I don't know what to make of that.
I'm really intrigued by.
I think the Petry benchings are just to kind of give him like that reset. I don't think it's like, hey, you're done.
Yeah,
it's just like, hey, calm down, relax, go back to doing what you do.
I'm excited for Lovey's game plan against this Dolphins offense. I feel like he might just park the corners like 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. It's like everything. It's like everything is like a 10-play drive for Miami.
We have a tie ball game, by the way. Little score update.
Yep, Daniel Carlson.
Las Vegas and Denver tied at 13. 7 minutes remaining. Hackett's one and done, right? Hackett's one and done, no doubt.
I think so, probably because of the Russ deal.
I actually think that would help out the Texans.
Hackett's one and done because the Walmart people didn't hire him.
Yeah, but don't you think that helps out the Texans if there's another one and done? If they are thinking about getting rid of Lovey?
There should be 2 one and dones in that division. They should get rid of McDaniels too.
They're not
Davis is so poor, they don't have enough money to fire him.
Someone's asking, Mike, I want you to predict, what is the betting line going to be against the Dolphins?
I'm probably going to get this wrong. All right, let's see. So
I'm going to say 11.5.
Okay, so you guess first. I mean, it's in Miami. 12, 13. I mean, how much at what point would I be comfortable even thinking about taking the points?
I bet it's 13.5.
13.5?
Okay, would you like to know what the look-ahead line was before this week started?
Yes.
It was 9.5 to 10.5.
Okay, yeah, so it'll be probably about they're gonna have a hard time getting money on Houston.
I'll probably take the Dolphins.
And they're coming off the bye.
Tua is gonna roast them. Like, he's going to have one of the easiest days of his career. He's going to stand back there. It's going to be like practice for him. Oh my God, Jeff Wilson too. Oh my God.
Their running game's gotten better in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, McDaniels, he should have taken. He got 2 weeks of vacation in the middle of the season.
And by the way,
who's their opponent after? He probably started looking at the next team they're going to play.
That by the way, organizationally is a good example of, and I think Brian Flores probably got a raw deal, but that's a good example of you need to not care about what people think and just make the right decision for the best interest of the franchise. They got murdered and crucified for firing Brian Flores, and they would make that decision
the right call
1,000 times out of 1,000.
Let's be honest, like they revived Tua. Like
yes,
Brian Flores like had Tua almost broken.
Yes,
and
he did a terrible job with Tua.
Kind of feels like that owner doesn't give a flying shit about nothing. He tried to tamper with Tom Brady. He tried to trade for Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
My God. McDaniel spent 2 weeks on the 49ers. They got the 49ers after the Texans in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. He's going home. He's getting ready for the homecoming.
He's probably spent 5 minutes on the Texans. Give it to Jeff. Let Tua throw the ball wherever he wants. We don't need to worry about the defense. Mills is their quarterback.
They're not even worried about it.
Oh, my God.
They're just chilling. The Miami, man. God. Man.
They've got Miami left on the schedule. That has the potential to be the worst result left on the schedule. But
Kansas City as well.
Can I interest you in a Kansas
Dallas?
City Chief?
At Dallas?
What about
the hell are
Chiefs?
these guys going to do against the Cowboys defense?
What's the Chiefs offense going to do?
I'm more scared of the Dolphins offense right now than the Chiefs. The Chiefs can't run the football.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, they do it because of Mahomes' greatness. With Miami, it's like
the Dolphins
literally
may not have a negative play.
So you think the gap's going to be? You think it's going to be more of a blowout against Miami?
I believe that the three biggest margins that they will have left is they'll be blown out by the Dolphins, they'll be blown out by the Cowboys, and they'll be blown out by the Chiefs. And I believe that the Dolphins' loss will be the worst.
Yeah, I could see that.
Denver just completed a 21-yard pass. They're at the Las Vegas 36. Don't
ruin this for us, Denver. Tie, you sons of bitches. Although I think the Raiders at that point you do care about the tiebreaker. The Raiders' strength of schedule is worse, so they would be ahead of the Texans. So you need a Raiders victory.
And I think the Raiders have winnable games the rest of the way, but it's like I just get a little bit more uncomfortable every single week when they don't pick up that third win.
Do they? Do they have winnable games?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, at Seattle, that's a loss.
That's
home
probably
the Chargers.
They can win that game. They can beat the Chargers.
This was supposed to be the winnable stretch. I thought they might win 6 in a row.
At the Rams.
Yeah, that's a winnable game. The Rams are dead.
Versus the Patriots. That's a domination.
By the way, Detroit has the Rams pick.
Yes.
It would be 5th overall right now.
Detroit's
got that F them picks is coming back to haunt the Rams, but they got their ring out of it. So
that's fine. I'll take a Super Bowl.
Christmas Eve. Absolutely. Yeah. Christmas Eve at the Steelers. Probably a loss, but still winnable. And the issue is that like those last two are going to be, unless Kansas City has it wrapped up, they're going to go be home 49ers, home Chiefs. The Raiders are home 49ers, home Chiefs.
All right, we have a field goal. The Broncos on top, 16-13, 3:30 remaining. Derek Carr time, baby. Let's make those tears. Let's make those tears. Let's make those tears valuable. Let's go. Do it for the guys.
Did you guys see the stat making the rounds for the Broncos?
They have the most 30-yard completions in the league.
No, it's like if their defense had scored X number of points every week, they'd be like almost undefeated.
What?
If the Broncos offense had scored 18 or more points in every game this year, they'd have like one loss.
Yeah, that'll get you fired. That'll get you one and done.
When you're an offensive, look, the Broncos made that hire because they thought they were getting Aaron Rodgers, and then Aaron Rodgers bailed on them.
No doubt. That's why Hackett was.
That's why Hackett got hired there. Boy, how fraudulent are the Vikings?
They're pissing me off right now. That's for damn sure.
DVOA. Those guys are like 17th in DVOA.
Well, I like for Kirk Cousins to do something for me.
This has been a rough showing. I think the Sharps were all over the Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, Cowboys were favored.
Why do you need Kirk Cousins to do something for you, Landry?
Fantasy.
Oh. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be
And
me.
Jefferson
I realized, you know what I realized?
Speaking of fantasy football, how about Mike never playing Jamal Williams when he's the NFL's touchdown leader?
By the way, did I drop Justin Fields this year? I feel like I did.
Yes,
Yep.
you did. Week
Yep.
2.
Why did I do that?
Because you
Mike,
watched him play the Texans.
Mike, you've been
Yeah.
a horrible addition to the fantasy league.
No, I can't argue. I've done a horrible job.
From a competitive
No argument.
standpoint, you've been very uncompetitive.
I've been uncompetitive. I've been uncompetitive. No other way to put it.
Got to be better.
Yeah,
Gotta
got to
coach
improve for
better.
2023.
You
Bad.
have 60 points right now.
Well, I got some guys in reserve here.
I probably
got
got
George
less than
Kittle
that.
and
I got
I
less
got
than
George
that, don't I?
Kittle with his 3 targets coming up.
Landry has 41 points.
Yeah. Trash, man. Freaking Vikings.
10 points combined between Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm done. A disgrace.
Thanks for the donation this year, Landry.
Yeah, right. You know damn well I'll make it to playoffs.
Mike, would you like to take a victory lap on the Illinois take?
Which one?
That Lovie Smith
yeah.
was bad at Illinois, and now Illinois is good?
Yeah, I mean, nobody talks about it, but no other team in football would have given Lovie Smith an interview in the NFL. He did a bad job at Illinois. They had Bielema, and I know they won 3 in a row, or they lost 3 in a row, but they obviously nearly beat Michigan on Saturday. They've turned things around. He's a much better coach than Lovie was, Brett Bielema, and nobody talks about it. I was right about that.
Yeah.
But do you think, out of curiosity, do you think, like, percentage-wise, what percent would you give Lovie being fired right now?
50.
Okay, so right on the number, 50-50.
50.
75%.
Yeah, I would say 50.
Okay, I'm gonna say
because here's
58.
here's a dirty little thing that we don't talk about too often. If you're Nick Caserio, you can basically pin so much crap on Lovie. You can be like, oh, nope, Lovie wanted Pep Hamilton. Nope, Lovie wanted this guy back, so we brought him back. Nope, Lovie wanted that guy back, so we brought him back. Like, you can just shove a lot of the crap that happened on this team onto Lovie and just explain that away that way. Like, you can take, like, this happens in business all the time. Oh, that wasn't my job. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted us to do this. No, I wanted us to buy a copier, not a copier printer combo. Like it happens in the business world all the time. Like, you can blame other people for things that went wrong, and then you don't have to deal with the consequences. Nick Caserio can do that. Not saying he should, not saying he will, but he can.
If you were a prospective head coach for this team, would you be worried about something we were talking about earlier, the idea that there's a whole lot of pressure to get better next season, and you'd be working for a guy in Caserio who would have that pressure on him?
No, go ahead.
Here's why this is an awesome opportunity. Because if you're super confident in yourself as a head coach, A, you're going to think that you can win right away and there's not going to be any issues. B, if you're not winning right away, you can walk into the owner's office and say, the players suck. I didn't pick any of these players. The players aren't any good. We need a new GM. And then you get one of your buddies to come in and be the GM. The next person to get fired after another head coach gets hired is not the next head coach. It's Nick Caserio.
And I don't like that, because that gets you into the whole, like, fire the GM and then bring in a GM who's not aligned with the coach. I want my head coach and GM aligned, which the Texans haven't really had in quite some time.
Well, last time they were aligned, Bill O'Brien called all the shots and they sucked ass, Mike. So you sure you want to align?
But that to me is not the kind of alignment I would have had.
Because being unaligned got them Deshaun Watson.
Correct, but I think they basically went ass backwards into that. The last time they were really aligned, based on my theory,
Brian Gaine and Bill O'Brien. That was the word of the summer.
The last time they were actually aligned in the Mike Meltzer view of it was when they hired Rick Smith and Gary Kubiak basically at the same time. That to me is the last time they were fully aligned the way an organization should be if I was running one.
What was the last season they were actually aligned? Because then, I mean, Rick got
2013.
to stay. Rick got to stay heading into 2013.
Yeah, 2013 was the last time they were fully aligned to where the head coach and the GM were on equal accountability levels.
I think 18 maybe. I think 18 maybe.
But just because they say they're aligned doesn't mean they're actually aligned. And the proof is in the pudding, because they fired Gaine and they gave O'Brien all the power. That's not really alignments.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
but
you're.
Do you think they were actually aligned because they were saying they were aligned?
I think at the time they were.
No, I don't think they were, because I don't think Gaines spent money like O'Brien wanted him to spend.
Yes, I don't think
no,
those
but
guys
that was 19, because the 18 was when they signed Tyrann Mathieu, and that was you're talking about 19, like before 19,
when he got fired in the summer.
Yeah, and a
he
month
didn't,
after
he
Easter
didn't
he got
spend.
there.
Got it. Okay, I got
But
you.
I don't even like that version of alignment, because that's hiring the GM years after you
To
hired
satisfy
the
the
head
coach.
Yeah. What I like is ideally hiring the GM and the head coach at the exact same time and having them on the exact same timeline. That's what I want. And they're obviously not going to have that now.
Well, you kind of do. You kind of do if you just give Caserio 2 mulligans. Then those two guys walk in there. Caserio with 2 mulligans, he walks in there with 4 years left on his contract, and he's got a 4-year deal, and then the next head coach got a 4-year deal, whatever. Put them on the same timeline.
The next coach he hires is going to have to be the long term thing. Raiders, by the way, are the dumbest. They might be the biggest idiots I've ever.
I mean, these guys are punting when they're in just desperation mode. They're awful.
Yeah, it was that their possession was like 11 seconds, and they just used their timeout at 2:11. So okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so they still got a 2-minute warning. We'll see what happens here. I'm not overly optimistic.
Does anybody think the Vikings might get another field goal?
Well, they got 15 minutes to do it, so I guess. But
why?
actually, probably not down this big.
Why are you asking that?
Yeah, what the hell?
Because I did so Underdog Fantasy lets you do kicker pick'ems. You just went over on 1.5 field goals for everybody playing, and I just need him to hit one more field goal. And it's a significant financial windfall.
I would say you would have an outside shot.
All right,
that's a tough one. Down 37-3.
What's this guy's? I don't even know the guy's name. Greg Joseph.
There's a guy to watch in the playoffs, by the way. He might kill them in the postseason. They don't trust him.
Vikings have a history with kickers, man.
Why is it
Gary
so
Anderson,
hard?
Dan Bailey, they have a history of missing big field goals in the playoffs.
Why is it so
Gary
hard
missed one all year?
Why is finding a kicker such an inexact science?
Because it's hard to kick.
Yeah, it's hard.
I know these meatheads don't want to admit it. It's like a golf shot. Like it's literally like a golf shot. There's timing. You have to play the wind perfectly. You don't look at as many kickers because there's only like one on each team. So like it's hard. I know people minimize it.
Carlson's one of the best in the game right now. He's obviously Tucker's the best. Like I'm not even having the conversation. Like even him, like Minnesota got rid of him the year they drafted him. Like they felt like he stunk enough that they wanted to move on from him.
All right,
Randy Bullock was the Groza Award winner or whatever the hell he was, and he sucked.
He's still in the league.
Yes.
Yeah, but he sucks.
But he's been in the league for how long?
What happened to that guy
now?
What happened to that guy the Buccaneers drafted?
The Florida State kicker.
Aguayo in the second round.
Landry, you'll appreciate this. I was on draft coverage that night with John Harris and Mark Vandermeer, and I saw the trade go through, and my job was to kind of give them the heads up that
Harris hates kickers, man.
Oh my God! I thought John Harris
kickers. He hates punters, man.
I thought he was going to have an aneurysm on the radio when Vandermeer explained to him that it was Roberto Aguayo was getting picked in the second round.
The weird thing is the dude was like a legend at Florida State.
No, he was the man.
I mean, he was the kicker for the championship team. Like
he won the Lou Groza Award.
And the Janikowski pick wasn't even bad. That got made fun of. It was actually ended up not being too stupid by the Raiders.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a special teams Mount Rushmore that Aguayo is part of.
I would draft. I'd draft that Michigan kid in like the 6th round, 5th round.
Man,
Jake
I
Moody.
want whatever happened to that punter that I wanted that ended up getting cut by Buffalo before the season.
Oh, Matt
He got
Ariza.
a trial or whatever.
Oh, he was like the 3rd, 4th punter taken too, wasn't he? Like didn't the Ravens take a punter before him?
Yes.
Yeah, and then there was a bunch of reporting by the Albert Breer types that was like after he got cut, that was like, yeah, some scouts didn't think he was as good as the hype was.
3 weeks ago, woman still seeking justice after allegedly being gang raped by former San Diego State football players.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, 4th and 10. Oh my God. How stupid is Denver? They tried to throw the ball out of the 2-minute warning. Raiders, no timeouts left. So Denver's going to punt him.
You're a little ahead of
Tie,
me.
tie.
No,
Oh,
they're
not
up
a tie.
3. Denver's up 3.
Yeah. Well, they can
I
still get
know.
a tie.
I want
yeah.
the Raiders to go get 3. And
Why
then
would you throw? Why would you throw there?
Because your coach is an
Well, you
absolute idiot.
You throw there because you're trying to end the game.
Don't you
That's
talk
why.
about Kubiak like that, you slime ball? You're going to Texans hell for that. Kubiak's calling plays.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and
but
that play wasn't even close.
if
Yeah.
you're gonna,
That's a bad job by
you're one
Russ.
of the best.
though.
You're one of the best defenses in football. The other side's atrocious.
That's also a bad job by Russ because he rolled out. He didn't have anything and he heaved it out of bounds. Like, dude, slide.
Yeah, slide.
Like, who cares
He's not all
about
there.
losing
He's
the
not
yards?
all there, though. Let's be honest. Russell Wilson ain't all there.
Like, he didn't want to take the hit, so he threw the ball basically nearly out of bounds. That's why he didn't want to take the hit.
He ain't all there, sir.
Maybe not.
I don't think Russ is there. All right, we got to pass to Hollins. We're on the 29. What do we need? Probably like 20. Their kicker's good, so they
Yeah, he's
probably
good.
need like.
He hit a 57-yarder to make it 13-13.
So they probably need about 36 yards.
Yeah. You guys are ahead of me. So
There we go. Midfield. 120. Let's go,
Kyrie-
Derek. Let's make those tears count, baby. Let's make those tears count, baby. Let's go.
Kaimi Fairbairn won the Lou Groza Award. Did everybody know that?
Get on the damn. I did not know that.
I did not know that either, I don't think.
He won it
no
in
idea.
2015.
Kaimi Fairbairn.
2
player
years
of the
after
game.
Roberto Quiet.
Kaimi
couldn't hit-
Fairbairn, player of the game.
He couldn't hit one more field goal.
Couldn't hit one more.
All right, there we go. Oh, yes. 7-yard line. 7-yard line.
Wait, are they
7-yard line.
7
Are they
yard
gonna
line.
win?
Jacobs
Forget
for
the tie.
43. Jacobs
Wow.
for 43.
Forget the tie. Let's go for the win. Let's
We're,
go.
we're inside. We're inside the 10. Jacobs.
Let's go Vegas.
Timeout, Denver. What are y'all doing? Denver just called a timeout with 32 seconds left.
Well, they probably want to reset their defense. I don't
Okay.
mind that.
Okay, 1st and goal from the 7. Timeout.
Good God.
But the dream for the number 1 pick is right in front of us.
Oh,
we'll
about to
leave, we'll
get
leave after this.
About to get so much help right now.
Boy, this
Oh,
would
man.
be nice.
Carr,
This would
don't-
be very
don't-
nice.
Don't screw this up.
Come on, Raiders.
Derek.
Oh, that was a really nice play by Carr, by the way, to get them all the way down there. Beautiful pass.
I can't believe they're going to move on from that guy.
Well, if they do,
There's
there's gonna
$5
be,
million
I think,
bucks.
there's going to be a big market for him. There's going to be a decent market, I should say.
Colts should be very, very intrigued by this, although I don't know if they
Jets.
want to do the veteran thing.
the
The
Jets
Jets should really be in that.
The Jets should trade everything they have to get that guy.
I mean, they don't have to because it's only.
Yeah, I don't think they have to.
Well, there's
I
going to be
can't believe Denver
there's gonna be
called
like
timeout.
20
I'm sorry.
teams signing up for that.
I can't believe
20
Denver
teams
called
trying to get
timeout.
Carr. Nathaniel Hackett.
Incomplete pass, 2nd and goal. Throw it to Devontae. Actually, run the ball and then nah, you're at the 7.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's gonna be tough.
McDaniels. At least we get overtime.
Cody's dream of a tie still lives.
You're gonna have to go pull the clip of me talking about how they tie.
You know who's to blame for more ties in the NFL? Bill Polian. For
God.
ramrodding through that they changed the overtime from 15 minutes to 10.
All right, incomplete. 3rd down. 3rd down, incomplete to Jacobs.
Bill Polian, who Jim Irsay just ignored, helped build his franchise for all those years.
Dude,
I know how
yes.
to build.
I'm
I know
so
how to
sick.
build winning football.
I'm so sick of Irsay acting like Peyton Manning didn't have anything to do with it. Like he said, I hired Tony Dungy. Dude, that wasn't hard. That was like one of the top guys on the market.
Yes.
I hired
he's got-
Tony Dungy.
Yeah, got a Hall of Fame general manager, a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame running back, and a Hall of Fame coach,
Wide receiver.
and
D lineman.
and a Hall of Fame a wide receiver and a borderline Hall of Fame wide receiver after that. I know how to build a football team. Shut up.
Come on. Come on, Derek. Dang it. Incomplete field goal team.
Kick it.
Yeah, they got to kick it.
Damn, man. They got to the 7.
They got lucky the second down pass wasn't intercepted.
Golly. Unbelievable. Oh, well, I guess you got to take the tie's fine. Now OT. The Raiders are kind of turning into the Chargers, though, man. You know how the Chargers used to always be like the update squad where they're so close to winning and then they find ways to lose? Like the Raiders are becoming like the new all right, 16-16. So there we go. Likely overtime. Never say never. I'm gonna go watch the rest of this, fellas. Appreciate you guys as always. Stu,
All right,
thank you guys so much.
we're rooting for a Raiders victory, correct?
100%. Absolutely.
All right, so get that Raiders
that'd
victory.
be a big thing because you'd have a 2-game cushion, and then you wouldn't feel like there's like a double whammy with that Browns game. All in on the Browns. There's no consequences. Beat the Browns. Boom.
Raiders win. What's Carr gonna call? Heads or tails?
You better call heads.
He strikes me as a heads guy.
You better call heads. All right, fellas. See ya.
So
See you guys.
All right, there you go. A little post game action here. We do that after every game. Daily content each time. Houston Sports at Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram. This one was a little bit longer. Just kind of cutting up with my guys. Show tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to get into this Lovey Smith stuff for sure. We'll get into other stuff going on in Houston sports. Fire up the Odyssey app. Always appreciate you guys for hopping in, interacting, all that type of stuff. And thanks to all the listeners who gave me tickets that they weren't going to use. Sent 16 to 20 more people to the game today because some people don't want to go to these games. I can't blame you, but there's always someone who's maybe less fortunate or just haven't had the chance to get to go. So we got them in the right hands, and I appreciate y'all for that help. No matter how bad it gets, just remember, we're in this together.